Just a Jewel with our host, Arthur Malik.
Welcome to Just a Jew. I'm your host, Arthur Malik. Today we have a two-part segment for you. We have Johnnie Bunting Jr. here. He's from Mount Vernon, New York. And tell me something about yourself, Johnnie.
Well, my name is Johnnie Bunting Jr. I'm glad to be here, first of all. I was born in the Bronx. I lived in the Bronx for some years. I was in the projects, welfare. We didn't have a lot of money. Father worked hard. I went to school. I was actually a pretty good student. I was a very good student, an honor student. I got into my little scuffles, boyhood stuff. But I wasn't, you wouldn't think that I would end up in prison. It wasn't like that. My mother died when I was 10. She had cancer. And after she died, I got moved to Connecticut to live with my family in New Haven. So living there, I went to Yale. They had a program called Ulysses S. Grant. So they allowed middle school students to come and get taught and tutored by Yale students. So I went there. It was cool. It was like the best of the school that went there. And it was good. It was good. Family troubles. Me and my grandmother didn't get along. She was a little rough on me, so to speak. I got to that age where it was like I wanted extra freedom. I thought I was grown, so I talked back. She wasn't having it. Next thing you know, back to New York. Came back to the Bronx. Things were different. The fashion is a big difference. So when I came back from Connecticut to New York, it's like I jumped ahead years. Like what I was wearing was totally out of style. So when I came back, it was like, oh my gosh, nothing I had, like the stuff that I thought was nice was yesteryear stuff.
Right.
So my grandmother, God bless her, she bought me some stuff. My sister, my aunt, they handed me stuff. My cousins, they here, because nobody wanted to see me like that, but it's not like they had money overflowing either. So introducing the street. The street provided me with ways to get my clothes up to par, and I didn't have that, I'm cool. I got a sense of humor, and I'm pretty fun to be around. But as far as the females, I didn't have that, yo, what's up, baby, how you doing?
Right.
That wasn't me. That wasn't me.
But what was the cause? What was the catalyst that pushed you to the streets?
My cousins. They were already dibbling-dabbling, and I wanted to be down. So it's like, okay, y'all making a little bit of money, and I was like a nerd. I literally was like the nerd. I used to have to dumb myself down around people because the way I spoke, they would make fun of it.
Right.
So it was all in good fun, but I took it to heart, wow, I pronounce things like this, and they say I talk like a white person and all this. And I'm like, wow. But I thought different from them.
Right.
So we was hustling, and my older cousin had us doing it, and we was getting pennies, like literally. We'd be out there for hours, and it'd be four of us, and then we get $20 and split it 4 ways. So I was out there for hours, and I made $5.
But you mentioned your mother passing from cancer, may she rest in peace. Do you think that this could have been the starting point of your anger? Because oftentimes than not, when we enter the streets, it's predicated on anger. So do you think that it's possible that anger from your mother passing has actually caused you to enter the streets?
That is a true statement, because it didn't actually push me into the streets because there was a gap from when I went to Connecticut.
But it ignited it. Could it ignite the anger?
It had part of it because I felt loved by my mother.
Right.
I got 2 sisters. You can ask either one of them who was my mother's favorite, and they will both say me. Mm-hmm. So when the parent, I was her baby. I'm the youngest, but I was her baby. I was her favorite. So once she left, it's like my love left. You understand what I'm saying? It's not like my father hated me. I just wasn't his favorite. So I didn't feel that. And then by us having to go to Connecticut and stay with his mother, it felt even more of a detachment, okay, I don't want you. Go live with my mom's. And you know, grandmother, bless her soul and everything, she had a different way of raising, because she had a lot of kids. She had 8 kids. So she had a different way that was more rough. She had a lot of boys, so she was more rough. And it's not like I was soft or nothing, but the way my mother raised me, she was more of a nurturer.
Right.
So I went from a nurturer to someone that was more like sink or swim. And it's like, hold on, this is not what I'm used to. So I accept that as, okay, you are pushing me away. So it was a part of me that was looking to be a part of something. So in school, I put myself in, I was on the chess team, basketball team, football team, soccer team. Like I was teaming it out. Like I spent a lot of my time out because I was looking for something.
So you was looking for that love. No matter where you found it at, you would embrace it.
Exactly.
And it happened to be the streets.
Right. So it was like, okay, well, we're going to get some money. We're going to do this. And like I said, we wasn't making no money. But it was like standing out there, laughing and joking in the cold, that camaraderie.
Felt like family.
I felt like family.
Exactly.
And it was like, but then I started, you know, the numbers started coming in. I'm like, hold on a second. Listen, we can actually make some money. And I knew some people through my aunt. I knew some people. So I'm like, listen, I want to make some money. Like, you know, no offense to my cousin, he's making some money through us, but I need to make a bigger chunk of this. So I had welfare, and my grandmother signed me up, and I was getting like $91 every 2 weeks. And my grandmother was good enough to be like, that's yours. Like, you know, you give me $25 for, we'll call it rent, but it's towards food, because I was actually getting $116. So the $25 would go to my grandmother, the 91 would come to me. So I'm 14, 15 years old, $91, $182 a month. Went and bought some drugs. Went and bought some drugs. Like, okay, well, I'm going to buy some drugs, bring it out and sell it. Now I'm making way more money than this. And the same little 4 guys, us 4, now they're my little team, and we're going to make some money.
So your criminal mentality escalated, because a lot of times where we start from here and we want to escalate, we want to grow, we will become greater in our criminal mentality. So is that what transpired?
Yes, but I didn't even acknowledge that as that. I just looked at it as, now I can get some sneaker money, I can get some jewelry, I can get attention from the girls, I can get accepted better from my peers because I need to get clothes. I need to get myself together. And since I'm the one funding it, I'm being looked at with some admiration by my peers. Like, oh, this dude, because even the way I danced, I wasn't really a dancer, but we go to little house parties and I do some movements and they was like, oh, that's the Connecticut rooftop. Like, what is he doing? And so now, by me funding it, it's like it put me to the forefront, like, okay, he's somebody now.
Right.
Now I can poke my chest out and stuff, and now people want to mimic me, even if I'm doing stuff that's like kind of awkward. Now I'm a trendsetter instead of a follower. And it was cool, but it wasn't enough. Because when you look at it for what it's all worth, I had a couple of bad investments, looked out for people who were supposed to take care of stuff, and they messed up.
Right.
So back to ground zero. So I went to work for someone else who offered me a salary to give me $500 a week to $1,000 a week. And it was more or less because I had got to the point where I started knocking people out. I was very, very strong. Like, it was like unnatural for my age at how strong I was. So the streets took advantage of that. Like, yo, come down. Mad people scared of me. So it's like, okay, well, utilize that. I made me some money. He made a whole lot more money than I did. But now I started getting a name. And the Connect even acknowledged it, because one time the dude that I was working for, I was like running the whole spot. He was the man, but I was running everything, so I knew everything. And so the Connect that we was getting the drugs from came to see me, because he stayed behind the scenes. He'd send somebody to deliver the drugs. But he came out from behind the scenes to come see me because he heard about me in the street. So he like, listen, whenever you're ready to do your own thing, let me know.
So the bigger your name becomes, the more people notice you, and you know, not just the stick-up kids and also the police officers. You know, the police recognize you also because the bigger you become, the more notoriety you come, more people know you. And did the police have anything or anyone watching you at this particular time?
Well, the police was watching that whole little area because that area was making, it was Edenwald Projects in the Bronx.
Oh, Edenwald, okay.
It was making a whole lot of money. So they was watching the whole little area.
Mm-hmm.
And I had, back then, Public Enemy was one of the groups that we listened to, and we had a little thing that I started calling Posse in Effect. Basically, Posse in Effect was me punching somebody in the face, setting it off, and we jump them.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times when I punch them in the face, I knock them out, and we just be kicking somebody that's on the ground.
Right.
But it was something that I instituted because the guys that I was around, a lot of them couldn't fight. They wasn't as tough as they wanted to be, and I wanted the fear that people had for me to be spread amongst us all.
You wanted your whole crew to be fed.
Right. So it was like, listen, like, it ain't just me. Like, there's no more fair fights. We're not doing none of this. We're gonna spread terror.
Right.
And so I started doing that. My name got more notice. Police knew who I was. And it's not to mention the fact that we used to do certain things and put our names and nicknames on us, wearing Gucci suits and stuff like that. So it was like, we kind of told on ourselves. Like, announced who I had a ring that said Force on it because Force was my nickname.
Right.
So it was like, okay, I got a 2-finger ring that says Force on it. If you didn't know who Force was and you walked up to me and you saw the ring, okay, well, now I know who Force is. So
what was your pitfall?
my pitfall, when I went to prison, it was really because of basically like a turf war.
Mm-hmm.
I had set up I had went for self again, because after the connect told me this, I went for self. Like, okay, well, I got some backup. I got a good connect, because going downtown, like how we used to go, sometimes you get beat. They give you something that ain't no good, and then you take a setback, and if your money isn't all that great to begin with, that setback can hurt you.
Right.
So I had a viable connect, that I had enough money to get some good work and a good amount of work, and I had a few people that I was rolling with that'll pump it. So it got to the point where one of the neighboring guys that was cool with me, it's like I was getting too much for him to, he didn't want to share it. Like, okay, we're in the same section, you're getting too much. So he was older than me, so he called himself giving me like an ultimatum. He called me, he said, and he was all like, almost professional. He was like, listen, if you want a job, you can start tomorrow. But if not, you can't be out here no more.
So he wanted you to work for him?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, I actually act like I was considering it. It's like, I was like, bring your guns out tomorrow. And then I walked away. And he said, okay, well, I'm taking all my work off the block. You get all the money you can get today, because if you come out here tomorrow, it's on. So like, all right, well, you threatened me. I did not fear him in the least. He was older than me, but my name was bigger than his.
Right.
So the next day, I start running his workers off the block. Like, okay, well, you told me to get off the block. I would allow us both to get money because that's how we've been getting it, and I had no problem with it. But since he instituted that, okay, well, I'm going to initiate it. Now, long story short, he paid someone to rob me. Now, a lot of people feared me. But this one individual, me and him had like conflict in my in my rise. So it's not like, for some reason, he didn't fear me. Because I guess I remember him when he was nobody.
Right.
So him and another guy came and jumped me. We fought. I got a black eye. One guy grabbed me. I'm dark skinned. So for me to get a black eye, I got to take a hell of a bruise. So I get a black eye. I picked one guy up and slammed him, and the knife fell out. And I stabbed him, but the knife was flimsy, so it bent, so it didn't do him no real harm. But it made me think like, oh, y'all want to really play like this. So that started,
The
that
turf
was,
war. That was the
right,
turf war.
that was the beginning of it.
Okay.
So I ended up catching the guy later on, and I stabbed him up. So, but I stabbed him up with a real knife, wasn't bending. So I hit him 9 times. Heart, lungs, eviscerated him, literally. And it's not like that was my intention. It was, to be perfectly honest with you, I didn't intend to kill him. I intended to hurt him. This may sound kind of messed up, but it's the way I was thinking. Because he fought me back, I hit him more times. Now, had he just run, I would have hit him that one time. He would have kept running, but he turned around and tried to fight. So it became more like a fight. But I got a knife in my hand. Mm-hmm. So I'm punching, but every time I hit him with this knife, it's going in him. And it's like I almost like forgot I had the knife because it's like a fight to me. And I'll never forget this because I thought about this in my cell. I had dreams about this. While we was fighting, he caught my hand. And it was like the death grip. And he said, "I'm already dead, Force. I'm already dead." And I was like, "You ain't dead yet." And I hit him again, but I hit him with the knife to cut him. And when I left, he was still alive. But like I said, like his intestines came out. He was on the sidewalk on Shefflin and Baychester, on the corner of Shefflin and Baychester. But I didn't see that. Police reports where I saw all the extra stuff.
How much time did you serve?
25 years, 7 months, and 5 days.
25 years. Through the duration of that 25 years, how long did you carry that fight with you?
I didn't carry the fight every day. Like, I didn't think about it every day, but it never left me.
So periodically you thought about it?
Yeah, and like one time I had a dream that I was at a bus stop. And it was a bus stop on Gun Hill Road and Eastchester Road, where that wide part of the street. I knew where I was at, and I saw him, and he came to fight me. I'm like, "You're dead." Like, in my dream, I acknowledge that he's dead, but it's like, he want to fight. So we start fighting. But I didn't realize it was a dream, but it was just so crazy to me. But when I woke up, I'm like, I still ain't get over this. Because through the course of my bid, a lot of us do this, a lot of black men in general, we harden ourselves. We experience a lot of stuff that's unnatural. In the life out there on the street, gun violence, cutting, stabbing, jumping people, it's like I took on a character. I literally took on a character. It went from Force being my rapping name, because I used to rap back in the days, and I had Force as my alter ego, to it being my street name. That's the guy, the tough guy, not the honor student, not the nerd. That's the guy that everybody fears. And then it's like you harden yourself. And then when you go in prison, it's like you got to harden yourself and deaden your emotions more, because now you're missing people, people die, people go away, girlfriends leave you. And it's like, if you sit there and shed a tear for all of these things, you'll be considered weak.
But would you say it's a Force persona? Because from where we come from, we both come from the streets, you have to have that hard edge because people will bully you. You have to have that hard edge because people would rob you. You have to have that hard edge because when people make fun of you, you can do something vicious to them. You see, so do you think that it's a Force persona, or do you think it's actually you?
I know now it's false. It's actually a defense mechanism. And because I don't do fear well, meaning if I'm in a position where I'm feeling oppressed, I'm going to accept it but for so long, and then I'm going to do something, because it gets to the point where I can't function. And an example of that is I've been to Attica.
Right.
And anybody who knows about Attica, Attica is oppression city.
That's right.
From coming into the door, the intimidation tactics. And I remember one time the officers put me on the wall. I didn't do anything. They put me on the wall going to the yard. And they leave you on the wall for a long time. And naturally,
So you could take your hands off that wall.
yeah, naturally you can't keep your hands up on the wall for a long time because you got the acids that come in and you have to put your hands down. And so I was on the wall and I was thinking, yo, why did they put me on the wall? So I don't want to bring my hands down because I know what's coming. I know they're setting me up.
Right.
So my will is keeping my hands on the wall, but I'm thinking, yo, if they're setting me up, I might as well do something because my hands is not going to stay on the wall but so long. So it was like a part of me saying, get him, a part of me saying, stay. So it was like the intellect part of saying, stay here, you go outside. My ego was saying, take your hands off the wall and fight.
Right.
So I had a fight within myself on the wall, and I started trembling on the wall. And I don't know what came over the officer, but he tapped me and said, go on, get outside. And I was like, whew. But I still ended up having a fight with the officers because I started writing them up. I had got to that point in my bid where I was saying, okay, I went through the drug selling. I sold drugs in prison and did all that, made a lot of money because that was still what I thought was part of my nature. Yeah. And it got to the point where I'm like, listen, this is not the move. People are getting new charges. They're staying in prison. They're making some money. I made some money. I'm like, I don't want to stay in prison. So I need to get out. So I need to start finding a way to make myself viable to the society, make myself an asset to the community coming out. So I need to learn some stuff. I'm smart.
That was my next question, because you just described that it was like an internal fight when your hands was on a wall. Like you had to fight internally with yourself to keep your hands on a wall. That same internal fight, when was the pivotal point that caused you to want to change? What was the pivotal point?
I wanted to go home. And although I could have said that every day of all those years I did, it came to a point, it used to be fun. Prison used to be fun. The mentality I had was like, from Rikers Island, when we used to go to the law library and talk about who had the phone, who was running the house. I ran some houses, I had some phones, so I had some props, people saying my name. That was fun. Coming up north, I was doing contracts when I first, to get some money. So you wanted somebody hit, come talk to me. I'll get them hit.
What do you mean by a hit, so the viewers can understand?
If you wanted somebody stabbed or cut, come to me, give you a price, I'll get them stabbed or cut. You want them sent out to jail, I'll get them sent out to jail. And that was fun. You know, looking at the Donald Goines books, the mafiosos, and saying, well, listen, I can get this done. Like, just come to me. I'm the Godfather.
But what was the point? I want to ask you, and I need to know, what was the point? What transpired in your life while incarcerated that said this is enough?
Well, I was learning law, and I kept fighting my conviction. And I kept losing. And I remember I was in Attica, and they tore up my cell. And I was going through my law work, putting it back together, and I saw something that I felt would help me come home. But I sat there on the floor, I almost cried. And I was like, yo, I'm tired of this. Like, yo, I gotta get out of here. Like, this is not it. And I didn't come home till like over a decade after that. But it was it was like the beginning of my transformation, because I was saying like, yo, I have to do something about myself to make myself ready. So I went from being a guy that come out with a sweat hood all the time. I was like, no, I'm not doing that no more. I'm coming out, I got some shoes on, I got a collar shirt on, and guys like, yo, you going on a visit? No, it's not about me going on a visit. I need to make myself look like somebody, look respectable. Coming outside with a dirty hoodie on every day, you don't look like nothing, you're not gonna be anything. So I had my mind focused on, listen, I'm gonna be something, I'm gonna be someone, and I gotta start from here.
Thank you for joining us with Just a Jewel. Thank you, Johnny. You're a wonderful guest. And I just need you people out there, don't forget to let your inner jewel shine.
Just a Jewel with our host, Arthur Malik.